the start of the year, I did a reading vlog reading 3 of Gallant books because that's an author that's been on my TBR for a while. I've been meaning to check out, so I thought to just read like make a video reading her books, which is finally get rid of that intimidation I had around her books, and you know, it turned out pretty great for me. So another author I thought of doing this with is Schwab, because Schwab is probably the author that I've been meaning to read for the longest time, and I just have not. I own 2 of her books. This is a library copy, but basically almost everything they have written have at one point crossed my mind as a book I wanted to read. So I am very excited to present to you today a reading vlog reading 3 Schwab books, and I also feel like I made a decent selection out of their works. I mean, you know, it isn't perfect, but I feel like they are very different books. I feel like Schwab has a wide range of things they write, so I feel like having a variety would work as well. For this video, I'm going to be reading Gallant, which is more YA. Even I've seen a lot of people say that this is even a bit more middleweight leaning. It's very young YA, and it's also supposed to be like more to like the horror side or like spooky side, so I'm excited about that. And then of course The Invisible Life of Addie, LaRue, which I feel like is an outlier in V. Schwab's library of works as I know it, and I feel like most people have talked about that. As an adult, it's more, I feel like it's more historical. I know it still has that fantasy element to it. All of their books have a fantasy element to it, but I do feel like this one is a bit more historical, and it's definitely the one that I've seen like the most love for, so I'm very excited to read this. And then finally A Darker Shade of Magic, which is probably the one of these books that has been on my TBR for the longest. I mean, this is also the one that was published the earliest out of these 3 books, but it's been on my TBR for so incredibly long, like since it first came out. And yeah, it's an adult fantasy. It also has parallel worlds, which is just something I really enjoy, but I have not read a lot of like multiversal like parallel worlds books. It's just something, it's a thing I really love, but I've not read a lot, so that's what's initially pulled me to the series a lot. So I'm very excited to give this a read. This is also a book on my top of TBR list this year, so that's knocking one out. And yeah, those are the 3 books I will be reading in this video, so let's just begin. Okay, so I decided to start this vlog off by reading Gallant because January wasn't originally my plan to start off with, but I'm kind of like in a bit of a spooky mood, so I thought this would fulfill that. But also at the same time, this is the V. Schwab book I've heard like the most negative things about, and especially I've seen some people enjoy it, but like most people who like love V. Schwab books don't tend to like this one. So I thought I would start with this one so it would have the least chances to disappoint me. But so far I'm 100 pages in. Also want to show off the stunning Dutch edition. This is under the Dutch jacket, and we got a stenciled badge and pretty art on the end pages. On the other side is exactly the same, just reverse. And so I'm 100 pages in, and something I'm also really liking about this book, by the way, is that every so often we get like these kind of excerpts from our main character's mother's diary, as well as some illustrations. I'll try this as well. But basically, so far in this book we follow Olivia, who has always been raised in like this school, and she knows her dad died right before she was born, but she doesn't know what happened to her mom, and the only thing she has is a journal from her mom that kind of connects her to her past. And then at the start of the novel, school receives a letter from Olivia's uncle inviting Olivia to live in Gallant and to move in with his little family. Gallant is the name of the big estate from the family. And then she arrives there and she isn't exactly welcomed. And she also found out that the uncle that supposedly wrote this letter died a year ago. So nobody, like, it's kind of iffy as far as if he actually wrote that letter or not, if it just got lost in mail or something. So that's kind of the whole kind of setup for the book so far. And it's not that I am super invested in it, I'm not super pulled into this yet, but it is very readable. Like these 100 pages I read so quickly, and I even though it's like pretty late and I'm pretty tired, I didn't even really feel like putting this book down, even if I wasn't like fully invested in it yet. And I think the main reason is that because I'm just curious about the things that are happening, because I feel like so far the book has not like done much, like it's very much still setting things up, but it definitely is like sprinkling in these little details that make you go, huh? And it's just small oddities that I am very excited to learn what they're gonna entail. Hi, so I've reached page 200. I actually don't have that many new things to say about this book. We have kind of started figuring out little bits, but there's still lots of question marks, in my opinion. And I'm still not mega invested in this. I don't know. It's just not gripping me the way that it's supposed to, I guess. Hi, so I finished Gallant by Schwab a couple of days ago. I just kind of forgot to update the vlogs. I'm so sorry. But I ended up giving this 2 stars. I feel like that was very obvious throughout my updating, like at the 100 and 200 mark. I don't know, this didn't work for me. I don't think it's a bad book, actually. I do think this could work for other people, and I have seen it work for other people. The atmosphere in this book is really great. I do think V. Schwab does a great job at kind of transporting you into like this vibe. I thought the concept was really interesting. I really liked the main character, Olivia. I thought she was great, and I did also quite like the cast of side characters. I just felt that they were very one-dimensional. I wanted just a little bit more from them, but the story, just to me, it never really fully gripped me, and I thought the ending was a bit disappointing. But for the rest, I don't know, it just didn't work for me. Hi, excuse me if I look like a mess, but I woke up and immediately started reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab, our next book in this video. I'm currently a quarter of the way through this book. I thought I'd update you every quarter. Seemed like a lot of fun. A quarter of the way through, which is page 147 in this book, in case you're curious. And honestly, I'm really liking it so far. I don't really kind of have a sense of where it's going currently. I feel like it's still in like its setup stages a little bit, but I'm really enjoying it. In case you don't know about this book follows Addie LaRue, who was born in like the 1700s, like early. Actually, technically, she was born late 1600s, but like we see her in like early 1700s. And she is about to be married off, and she really, really doesn't want to. She wants to explore the world, and she ends up making a deal with the darkness, comparable to like the devil, but like not technically the devil. Yeah, so I'm calling it the darkness. I feel like that's the most accurate way, where she just wants a very independent life and to be able to explore the world, basically. But in return, he kind of makes it so that she won't be remembered by anyone she meets, and she gets a mortal life to do whatever she wants, but like nobody recognizes her. And this is basically her journey throughout life. And we are in 2 timelines. One is 2014, which is a present day timeline, I think, or there might be a future jump, but so far it seems to be like a present day timeline. And then we do also get like chapters from the past, and right now in the past we're in 1714, so that's still the year she made the deal, so we're very early stages. But I'm assuming as the book continues we also get to see like other time periods, just based on like reviews I've seen in this book. But what happens in the 2014 timeline hasn't happened yet fully, although I think we've met the character that happens to it. But what happens in the current day timeline is that one day somebody actually remembers her, and I think, just based on how this has gone, I think we've gotten the meeting with that person that will remember her, but we haven't met them again yet. So I'm not entirely sure, but I think it is because that person also got their own chapter. So be weird if it didn't. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm very just like this like Gallant. I had trouble getting into the narrative and like being pulled into it. And this one just kind of immediately whisked me away. So it's kind of like the opposite. I just was immediately pulled into this world, not necessarily because this is our world, but just this story, I guess. And I immediately kind of like fell for Addie. I think she's such an interesting main character, and I really like following her. And yeah, as I said, I am a bit directionless. I don't really know what direction this book is going to take us in, but I am very curious to find out because currently I'm just enjoying my time reading it so far. Hi, so I've reached the halfway mark of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I'm really into this at this point. We have progressed the story quite a bit. We've learned quite a bit. We're doing quite a bit. It's still really interesting. We're still in the past timeline in Paris, currently in New York, which I think is also really interesting. But we know that Addie has been in lots of different places, so I'm very curious to kind of see her travel the world, and kind of like the large gap between Addie of present and Addie of past is kind of bridging itself, which I'm also really liking seeing that development throughout it. And at the present timeline, things have also gotten interesting because, as I said before, we have met the person who remembers who Addie is at that point, and now we've done a lot with him, and I'm very curious about him because he also has some oddities about him, and that plus the fact he's literally the only person to ever be able to remember Addie. I am really curious why that is, and I have some theories in my mind, but I don't know if they are exactly true. So I think that's really interesting, and we just got in like a pretty big moment. Page 287, no, 286 in this copy, and I am very, very hyped to see how things are going to continue. But yes, I already totally understand the hype for this. I'm only halfway through this because honestly, this is just such a, like, not even necessarily delightful read, but I don't know what else to call it. It's also not fun, but it just, I don't know, it's a nice read. I really, really am enjoying this. Hi, I'm trying a new angle. I'm sorry, but I'm too lazy to get up. Anyway, I'm still reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I think the fact that I'm still reading this right now is actually a good sign because, in case you didn't notice, I've been reading this book all day. Like, I've not been doing anything else. I read 100 pages of this yesterday, and all the rest was today, baby. And it's a chunky book. I'm on page 428 right now, which means I'm 3/4 of the way through. Only have a quarter left, and I'm still loving it. Like, I'm having so much fun reading this. As predicted, there are stuff going on with the guy who remembers Addie, and we actually got a whole section to like his perspective, kind of explaining his history, his life a little bit, and I really enjoyed that section. I am glad to be back with Addie's life though, because I do think that's a bit more interesting, but I did like the little interlude. I thought it was a really fun way to kind of, I don't know, not introduce us to him because we already knew him, but to learn about him. I thought it was really well executed. I'm still enjoying seeing Addie throughout present day and past, and seeing her kind of evolve and like learn the ropes of basically this curse and how to still make a mark on the world. There's a lot of discussions around art in this as well because of that, and I really enjoy it. I think that's just a wonderful inclusion. I don't know, I'm still just really enjoying the ride that this book is taking me on, and I for some reason have a feeling this last story is gonna wreck me. I don't know why. I just feel like a good cry is coming. Okay, so I finished Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and unsurprising to probably all of you, this is a 5-star. You know what this means to me? This is only my 4th 5-star of the year, and one of those 5 stars is a reread, so technically it's only like my 3rd new 5-star of the year. It feels so good. Especially because this is probably a book that I don't think I would have picked up anytime soon if it wasn't for this video. And that's not to say that I haven't been wanting to read this, because I've heard so many great things of it over the years. But this is one of those cases where I just so hyped that I just get too scared to read it, and I put it off my entire life. And I'm so glad I did finally read it, because it was so good. It's such a slow, quiet novel. It doesn't do anything big, anything grand, but it takes you on this journey of Addie's life, of Henry's life, even throughout a certain part of this book as well. And it tells a beautiful love story while also being very tragic in a way and very melancholic. And I loved it so much. And I was absolutely correct in the prediction that is what made me sob. Like, honestly, I thought part 6 was gonna do it because this book is split into 7 parts. I thought part 6 was gonna do it, and part 7 kind of functions as a bit of an epilogue. That's what broke me. There are so many things in there that just absolutely get me going, and it's stunning. It talks about life, human desires, art, leaving a mark on the world. And it's just, I don't know, I thought it was absolutely stunning. Okay, so I started and already finished A Darker Shade of Magic by Schwab. I wanted to update you while reading this, I really did, but I just kind of feel like the plot of this one is really simple, and therefore I just never really got thoughts to really talk about it until I just now finished it. I give it 2 to 5 stars in this book. Like, this book takes place in this world where there's 4 different types of worlds, and the only connecting point they have is kind of like London. Each one of these worlds, alternate parallel worlds, the only similarity they have is the city of London, even if it looks a bit different in each world, but like technically it's the one connector they have. And we follow Kel, who is one of the very few who can still travel between the worlds ever since the black version of the world kind of just died off and is shut off from everything. And there were a lot of more stricter rules to be able to travel between these different like worlds, and like I said, Kel was one of the few that has that magic to still be able to do that. And we have a white London, which is also very close to dying down. We have a red London that's full of magic, and a grey London that does not have any magic at all in it. And we also follow Lila, who is a thief from Grey London, so without magic, and she and Kel cross paths at a certain point, and it kicks off a whole thing. And I don't really want to say that much more about it, because like the first half of this book very much is set up, getting introduced to this world, to these characters, and then the second half kind of like the plot kind of kicks off a bit more, so I don't really want to delve into what that plot is because of spoilers. But like I said, it is a very simple plot. I give it 3 stars because of that, because I did really enjoy this. I really liked the world, especially. I think it's so interesting, and like the magic system I thought was really interesting. The characters I did like. I do think they were a bit one-dimensional, but not to the point where I got really in the way of my enjoyment of the book, but it did keep me from like fully obsessing over them or anything. But the plot, like I said, is very well executed, but it just nothing that big or grand or special. It seems like a very like smaller plot to be able to like properly introduce you to all like the different dynamics between the different worlds as well, because that's also very politics heavy. And this book is not very politics heavy, but like if you think about the politics between these worlds, it's a lot out there. So it makes sense that we start the series off with a bit of a more simple plot so that we understand everything surrounding it a bit better. And I didn't hate that. This was also a very quick read. I really flew through this. I thought it was an enjoyable read. But yeah, just because I wanted just a tad bit more from that plot, it ended up being a 3-star. But I'm very excited to continue on with this series. And yeah, that's the end for this video. So I read 3 books. One has been returned to the library, I'm sorry. So the first book that I read is Gallant, which I gave 2 stars. Then I read The Invisible Life of Addie, LaRue, which I gave 5 stars, and Darker Shade of Magic, which I gave 3 stars. So it's not as big of a success as the RF Quan vlog, but I do still think this is a success, because even if these books were a bit lower for me, I did still think V. Schwab writing was incredible in these, especially Gallant. The way they built atmosphere in this book was absolutely incredible. It didn't really click for me. And then, like I said, A Darker Shade of Magic is just very well crafted. It's just not, I don't know, I wanted it to do a bit more, and therefore I have already gotten from the library City of Ghosts, which is the first in a middle grade series by V. Schwab, and I'm very excited to check that out as well. So that will be happening soon, just not in this vlog, somewhere else, probably just in my free time. I don't think I'm gonna vlog that, but I'm very excited to give that a read. And then of course also very excited to continue on with the series, and if I ever get my hands on another V. Schwab book, definitely trying it out, because I don't know, I like that writing, but because the catalog of books is so wide and there's so many different things, I did kind of expect this mixed bag of results a little bit. So yeah, but I got a new favorite book out of it, so who cares? Anyway, that's it for today's video. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it, and then hopefully I'll see you around next time.
Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? Should